Marlon Brando didn't just change acting, he studied the films that changed it before him. These are the 10 classic films Brando said transformed performance forever. The movies that made him rethink what an actor could do on screen. Number 10. The Bicycle Thief, 1948.
Take these away. 7,500. Is that better?
Vittorio De Sica directed this Italian neo-realist masterpiece, and Brando called it one of the most important films ever made. The story follows a poor man in post-war Rome who finally gets a job putting up posters, but he needs a bicycle to do it. He pawns everything his family owns to get one, and then it gets stolen. The rest of the film is him and his young son searching the city for the bicycle, getting more desperate with each failure. There are no professional actors in this film. De Sica cast real people, a factory worker as the father, a kid off the street as the son. What makes The Bicycle Thief revolutionary is how it strips away all theatrical artifice. There's no dramatic music telling you how to feel. There are no perfectly lit close-ups. The performances are raw and real because the people on screen aren't performing. They're just living. Brando saw this film early in his career, and it completely changed how he thought about acting. He realized you didn't need to project or indicate. You could just be. The film won the Academy Award for Best Foreign Film and became one of the most influential movies in cinema history. But what struck Brando was how De Sica got those performances from non-actors. He studied De Sica's methods, how he'd let scenes play out without cutting, how he'd capture genuine emotion instead of manufactured drama. Brando later said that watching The Bicycle Thief made him understand that great acting wasn't about technique. It was about truth. The film's influence on Brando's own work is obvious. When he played Terry Malloy in On the Waterfront, he brought that same neo-realist approach. He mumbled, he hesitated, he moved like a real person instead of a movie star. Critics at the time didn't know what to make of it. Some thought he was unprofessional. Others recognized he was doing something completely new. But Brando knew exactly what he was doing. He was taking the lessons of De Sica and bringing them to Hollywood. The Bicycle Thief proved that cinema didn't need spectacle or melodrama to be powerful. It just needed honest observation of human behavior. That philosophy became the foundation of method acting and changed American performance forever. Brando never forgot that lesson. Every time he stepped in front of a camera, he was trying to capture that same raw truth De Sica found on the streets of Rome. Number 9. Children of Paradise, 1945.
Once in a decade, a great picture is made, and this time...
Marcel Carné directed this 3-hour French epic during the Nazi occupation, and Brando considered it the greatest film ever made about performance itself. The story follows a mime named Baptiste, played by Jean-Louis Barrault, who falls in love with a woman named Garance. But she's pursued by 4 different men, each representing a different relationship to art and performance. There's the mime, the actor, the criminal, and the aristocrat. The film is about how we perform for each other, how we hide behind masks, and how love forces us to reveal ourselves. What fascinated Brando about Children of Paradise was how it understood that all human behavior is performance. Baptiste is a mime, so his entire art form is physical expression without words. Barrault's performance is extraordinary, conveying complex emotions entirely through gesture and movement. Brando studied those scenes obsessively. He wanted to understand how Barrault could communicate so much without dialogue. That study directly influenced Brando's own physical approach to acting. The film was shot under impossible conditions. France was still occupied. Resources were scarce. The Nazis were censoring everything. But Carné and screenwriter Jacques Prévert created this massive romantic epic anyway. They hid Jewish crew members from the Gestapo. They shot scenes in secret. The film became an act of resistance, a celebration of art and humanity in the face of fascism. That defiance resonated deeply with Brando. When Brando watched Children of Paradise, he saw that great acting required complete commitment to physical truth. Barrault doesn't just mime, he becomes mime. His entire body is an instrument. Brando took that lesson and applied it to everything he did. Watch him in a streetcar named Desire. Every movement means something. The way he stretches, the way he walks, the way he touches objects. It's all deliberate, all chosen, but it feels completely natural. The film also taught Brando about the relationship between performer and audience. In Children of Paradise, Baptiste performs for crowds on the street. He needs their attention, their approval, their love. But that need becomes a prison. He can't separate his art from his life. Brando understood that trap. He spent his entire career struggling with the same issue, trying to be truthful while performing for millions of people. Children of Paradise showed him that contradiction was the essence of acting itself. Number 8, Rashomon, 1950. Akira Kurosawa directed this revolutionary Japanese film, and Brando said it changed how he understood character and truth. The story is about a murder told from 4 different perspectives: a bandit, a samurai, his wife, and a woodcutter. All describe the same event, but their versions completely contradict each other. Each character believes they're telling the truth, but their testimonies reveal more about who they are than what actually happened. Toshiro Mifune plays the bandit with this wild, animalistic energy that Brando found mesmerizing. What makes Rashomon so important is how it demonstrates that truth is subjective. Every character is performing their version of events, trying to make themselves look better or more sympathetic. The bandit wants to seem dangerous and powerful. The wife wants to seem innocent. The samurai, speaking through a medium, wants to preserve his honor. None of them are lying exactly, but none of them are telling the whole truth either. That complexity fascinated Brando. Mifune's performance as the bandit is unlike anything in Western cinema at that point. He's feral, laughing maniacally one moment and deadly serious the next. He moves like an animal, scratching himself, leaping around, completely uninhibited. Brando watched that performance and realized you could go further than he'd ever imagined. You could be bigger, wilder, more dangerous, and still be truthful if you fully committed. The film won the Golden Lion at Venice and introduced Japanese cinema to Western audiences, but for Brando, the revelation was about how performance could explore the nature of identity itself. He started thinking about his characters not as fixed personalities, but as people performing different versions of themselves, depending on the situation. That's why his performances feel so alive and unpredictable. He's constantly shifting, revealing new layers. Rashomon also reinforced Brando's belief that acting should be physical, not just verbal. Mifune tells his story through movement as much as dialogue. The way he swaggers, the way he fights, the way he looks at the woman, it all reveals character. Brando incorporated that physicality into his own work. He became famous for not just saying lines, but inhabiting space, making choices with his body that contradicted or complicated what he was saying. That approach came directly from watching Kurosawa's masterpiece. Number 7, Grand Illusion, 1937.
Commandant Kraus vous rappelle que vous êtes ici sous l'autorité des lois allemandes. Station d'évasion!
Jean Renoir directed this World War I drama, and Brando called it the most humane war film ever made. The story follows French prisoners of war in a German camp. Jean Gabin plays a working-class soldier. Pierre Freinet plays an aristocratic officer, and Erich von Stroheim plays the German commandant. Instead of focusing on combat or escape attempts, the film is about how these men from different classes and countries relate to each other. It's about the illusions we create, national identity, class solidarity, and the dying world of aristocratic honor. What struck Brando about Grand Illusion was how Renoir directed his actors to find the humanity in every character. Von Stroheim's German officer isn't a villain. He's a lonely man who shares more in common with his French aristocratic prisoner than with his own working-class soldiers. The film suggests that class bonds are stronger than national ones, and that the real enemy is war itself, not the men fighting it. That moral complexity was revolutionary. Renoir's directing style influenced how Brando thought about collaboration. Renoir would let his actors improvise, find moments, discover relationships organically. He didn't lock everything down in advance. He trusted his performers to bring truth to the scenes. Brando loved that approach. He hated directors who treated actors like puppets. He wanted the freedom to explore, and Grand Illusion showed him that great directors gave their actors that space. The performances in Grand Illusion are understated and naturalistic. Nobody is performing heroism or villainy. They're just men trying to survive and maintain their dignity in impossible circumstances. Gabin's performance especially influenced Brando. He's tough but not theatrical about it. His strength comes from authenticity, not posturing. When Brando played Stanley Kowalski, he channeled that same working-class authenticity. Gabin brought to every role. Grand Illusion was banned by the Nazis for being anti-war and by Mussolini for being pro-French. That political courage impressed Brando. He believed artists had a responsibility to tell uncomfortable truths, and Renoir's film did exactly that. It said that nationalism was a lie, that war destroyed everyone it touched, and that human connection mattered more than flags or uniforms. Brando carried those beliefs throughout his life, and they informed his choices both on-screen and off. Number 6. The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, 1920. Robert Wiene directed this German expressionist horror film, and Brando said it taught him that acting didn't have to be realistic to be truthful. The story follows a hypnotist who controls a somnambulist to commit murders, but the entire film is told from an unreliable narrator's perspective, and everything looks distorted and nightmarish. The sets are all painted with twisted angles and exaggerated shadows. The actors move in stylized, theatrical ways. It's the opposite of neorealism, but Brando found it just as truthful. What fascinated Brando about Caligari was how it used artifice to express internal psychological states. The film doesn't look like reality because it's taking place inside a disturbed mind. The acting is heightened and expressionistic because that's how the narrator experiences the world. Conrad Veidt plays the somnambulist with these angular, jerky movements that feel alien and disturbing. It's pure performance, completely theatrical, and yet it communicates something real about madness and control. Brando studied Caligari because he wanted to understand the full range of what performance could be. He's famous for naturalism, but he knew that sometimes truth required exaggeration. Sometimes you had to go bigger to express what couldn't be said with realistic behavior. That's why his later performances, like in Apocalypse Now, feel so operatic and strange. He was drawing on the lessons of German expressionism, using theatrical choices to reveal psychological truth. The film also taught Brando about the power of physical transformation. Veidt makes himself look inhuman through posture and movement alone. He's not wearing elaborate makeup or prosthetics. He's just contorting his body in ways that make him seem otherworldly. Brando used that technique throughout his career. He'd change his walk, his posture, his physical bearing to transform into different characters. That commitment to physical characterization came partly from watching films like Caligari. The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari proved that cinema could be an art form, not just entertainment. It showed that film could express ideas and emotions that couldn't be captured through realistic means. That ambition inspired Brando. He didn't want to just be a movie star. He wanted to be an artist, to push boundaries, to challenge audiences. Caligari showed him that was possible, that films could be as complex and meaningful as any other art form. Number 5. The Gold Rush, 1925. Charlie Chaplin wrote, directed, and starred in this silent comedy, and Brando called it the perfect example of how physical performance could tell a complete story without words. The film follows Chaplin's tramp character as he searches for gold in Alaska, falls in love with a dance hall girl, and nearly starves to death in a cabin during a blizzard. The famous scene where Chaplin eats his own shoe, treating the laces like spaghetti and the nails like chicken bones, is one of the greatest pieces of physical comedy ever filmed. But what impressed Brando wasn't just the humor. It was how Chaplin used that comedy to express genuine pathos and desperation. What makes The Gold Rush so important to understanding Brando's approach is how Chaplin creates a fully realized character entirely through movement and expression. The tramp never stops being funny, but he's also heartbreaking. You feel his loneliness, his hunger, his desperate need for love and acceptance. Chaplin achieves all of that without speaking a single word. Brando studied those scenes obsessively, trying to understand how Chaplin could communicate such complex emotions through gestures alone. Brando once said that Chaplin was the greatest actor who ever lived. He meant it. He believed Chaplin understood something essential about performance that most actors never grasped. Every movement had to mean something. Every gesture had to reveal character. You couldn't waste a single moment. Chaplin's discipline and precision influenced how Brando approached his own physical work. Watch Brando in any film, and you'll see that same attention to detail. The way he lights a cigarette, the way he adjusts his clothing, the way he moves through space, it's all deliberate. The Gold Rush also taught Brando about the relationship between comedy and tragedy. Chaplin moves seamlessly between the two. One moment you're laughing at the tramp's antics, the next you're devastated by his isolation. That tonal complexity became central to Brando's own work. He understood that life wasn't neatly divided into comedy and drama. People could be funny and sad at the same time. His performance in On the Waterfront has moments of unexpected humor. His work in The Godfather contains surprising tenderness. That range came from studying Chaplin. The film was a massive commercial success, one of the highest-grossing silent films ever made. But beyond the box office, it cemented Chaplin's status as a true artist. He wasn't just making people laugh. He was creating cinema that could stand alongside any other art form. That ambition inspired Brando. He didn't want to be just another Hollywood star cranking out products. He wanted to create performances that mattered, that said something about the human condition. The Gold Rush showed him that was possible. It proved that popular entertainment could also be serious art, and that audiences would embrace it if you gave them something real. Number 4. Port of Shadows, 1938. Marcel Carné directed this French poetic realist film, and Brando said Jean Gabin's performance in it was the blueprint for modern screen acting. Gabin plays an army deserter hiding in Le Havre who falls in love with a young woman being controlled by an abusive guardian. The film is dark, fatalistic, and soaked in atmosphere. Gabin's character knows he's doomed from the first frame, but he pursues love anyway. His performance is all understatement and controlled intensity. He barely raises his voice. He moves with economy and purpose. Every gesture counts. What Brando learned from Port of Shadows was how to harness stillness and restraint. Gabin doesn't do much, but his presence dominates every scene he's in. He communicates volumes through silence, through the way he looks at people, through small physical choices. That economy of performance became central to Brando's technique. He realized you didn't need to fill every moment with activity. Sometimes doing less was more powerful. The film's view of masculinity also influenced Brando deeply. Gabin's character is tough, but not macho. He's capable of violence, but doesn't seek it out. He's protective of the woman he loves, but doesn't try to control her. He's vulnerable, capable of tenderness, haunted by his past. That complexity was rare in 1938, and it showed Brando that screen heroes didn't have to be one-dimensional tough guys. They could be flawed, damaged, real. Carné and screenwriter Jacques Prévert created a world where dreams are crushed and love is impossible. The film's pessimism was radical for its time. There's no happy ending. The hero doesn't triumph. He gets exactly what he expected from the beginning, which is nothing. That fatalism resonated with Brando. He didn't believe in fairy tales. He believed in showing life as it actually was, with all its disappointment and injustice. Port of Shadows validated that worldview. The film was controversial in France. Some critics accused it of being defeatist and demoralizing. The Vichy government later banned it for corrupting French youth. But that controversy only proved the film's power. It was telling truths that made people uncomfortable. Brando respected that. He spent his entire career making choices that disturbed audiences, playing characters who challenged conventional morality. Port of Shadows showed him that great art should provoke, not comfort. Gabin became Brando's model for film acting. He studied Gabin's performances frame by frame, trying to understand how he achieved such natural authenticity. When Brando played Johnny in The Wild One, when he played Terry in On the Waterfront, he was channeling Gabin's working-class masculinity, his vulnerability masked as toughness, his refusal to perform heroism in conventional ways. Port of Shadows gave Brando permission to be complicated, to be real, to reject Hollywood's sanitized version of manhood. Number 3, The Passion of Joan of Arc, 1928. Carl Theodor Dreyer directed this silent masterpiece, and Brando called Maria Falconetti's performance the greatest in cinema history. The film depicts Joan of Arc's trial and execution, and Dreyer shot it almost entirely in extreme close-ups. Falconetti's face fills the screen for most of the runtime. There's nowhere to hide. Every emotion, every thought, every moment of doubt and faith is captured in brutal detail. She's not wearing makeup. The lighting is harsh and unflattering. Dreyer wanted absolute truth, and Falconetti gave it to him. What makes The Passion of Joan of Arc so revolutionary is how it uses the close-up. not as a punctuation mark, but as the primary visual language. Most films use close-ups sparingly for emphasis. Dreyer built his entire film around them. He forced audiences to stare directly into Falconetti's face and witness her suffering. That intimacy was unprecedented. Brando watched this film and realized that cinema could capture human emotion with an intensity impossible in theater. The camera could get so close that acting became almost unbearably intimate. Falconetti's performance influenced Brando's belief that great acting required complete vulnerability. She holds nothing back. You can see her terror, her confusion, her moments of transcendence. There's no technique protecting her. She's just raw, exposed, suffering. Brando tried to achieve that same vulnerability in his own work. He wanted audiences to feel like they were witnessing something private and real, not a performance. The production was notoriously difficult. Dreyer was a tyrant who made Falconetti do countless takes until she was emotionally and physically exhausted. He wanted to break her down, to capture genuine anguish on camera. That approach horrified Brando. He thought directors should support actors, not torture them. But he couldn't deny the results. Falconetti's performance was devastating, precisely because Dreyer pushed her so far. The film was butchered by censors and distributors. Different versions circulated with different edits, different intertitles, even different musical scores. The original negative was lost in a fire. For decades, people thought Dreyer's true vision was gone forever. Then, in 1981, a complete print was discovered in a janitor's closet in a Norwegian mental institution. When that restoration was released, a new generation could finally see the film as Dreyer intended. Brando believed The Passion of Joan of Arc proved that film acting was its own distinct art form, separate from theater. Falconetti couldn't have achieved this performance on stage. It required the camera's intimacy, its ability to capture minute details of expression. That revelation shaped Brando's entire approach. He acted for the camera, not for the back row. He understood that film demanded subtlety, not projection. The Passion of Joan of Arc taught him that screen acting was about revealing your inner life, making the camera your confessor. Number 2, M, 1931. Fritz Lang directed this German thriller about a child murderer, and Brando said, Peter Lorre's performance showed him how to find humanity in monstrous characters. Lorre plays Hans Beckert, a serial killer who can't control his compulsion to murder children. The film doesn't ask you to sympathize with him, but it forces you to see him as human. In the final scene, Beckert breaks down and explains that he can't help what he does, that he's tormented by voices in his head, that he wishes he could stop. Lorre plays it with such desperation and anguish that you feel pity for this monster. That complexity fascinated Brando. What makes M so important is how it refuses to simplify evil. Beckert isn't a cackling villain. He's sick, suffering, trapped by his own compulsions. The film presents him as both predator and victim. Society failed to protect children from him, but it also failed to help him before he became dangerous. That moral ambiguity was radical for 1931. Most films depicted criminals as purely evil. Lang showed evil as something more complicated and disturbing. Lorre's performance is all nervous energy and barely contains panic. He whistles Griegs in the Hall of the Mountain King obsessively. He's sweating, twitching, constantly looking over his shoulder. When he's finally caught by the criminal underworld and put on trial, he explodes in that final monologue. Brando studied that scene repeatedly. He wanted to understand how Lorre made you feel compassion for someone who deserved none. That skill, finding humanity in terrible people, became one of Brando's greatest strengths. The film was also groundbreaking technically. Lang used sound in ways nobody had before. The caller's whistling becomes his signature, allowing Lang to create suspense without showing him. The final trial scene uses overlapping dialogue and echo effects to create this nightmarish atmosphere. Brando paid attention to all of it. He understood that great performances existed in collaboration with cinematography, sound design, editing. He learned to work with those elements rather than against them. M was controversial and barely escaped being banned by the Nazis. Lang fled Germany shortly after making it. The film's sympathetic portrayal of a mentally ill murderer outraged some critics. Others recognized it as a masterpiece. Over time, it became recognized as one of the greatest early sound films and a landmark in psychological cinema. For Brando, M was essential viewing. It taught him that actors could explore the darkest corners of human nature and still create art that mattered. Every villain Brando ever played, from Mark Antony to Colonel Kurtz, carried traces of Peter Lorre's tormented child killer. Number 1. Battleship Potemkin, 1925. Sergei Eisenstein directed this Soviet propaganda film, and Brando said it revolutionized how he understood the relationship between performance and editing. The film depicts a mutiny on a Russian battleship in 1905. There are no professional actors. Eisenstein cast regular people and used montage to create emotion and meaning. The famous Odessa Steppes sequence, where Cossacks massacre civilians, is 6 minutes of pure editing genius. Eisenstein intercuts between soldiers marching, people falling, a baby carriage rolling down the steps, a mother's horrified face. The performances are simple, almost non-existent. The editing creates the drama. What Brando learned from Battleship Potemkin was that film acting isn't just about what you do on set. It's about how your performance gets fragmented and reassembled in the editing room. Eisenstein showed that a performance isn't a continuous thing. It's a series of moments, pieces that get stitched together to create meaning. That understanding changed how Brando approached his work. He started thinking about giving editors choices, offering different intensities and approaches that could be shaped later. The film's non-professional actors moved and behaved naturally because they weren't trained to do anything else. They just reacted. Eisenstein captured those reactions and built his film from them. Brando saw the power in that spontaneity. He started incorporating more improvisation into his work, giving directors unexpected moments they could use. That unpredictability became his trademark. Battleship Potemkin was banned in multiple countries for being communist propaganda, but its influence spread anyway. Filmmakers around the world studied Eisenstein's editing techniques. The Odessa Steppes sequence has been homaged in countless films. But for Brando, the important lesson was about collaboration. Great cinema required great directors, great cinematographers, great editors. The actor was just one piece of a larger machine. That humility served him well. He worked with the best directors of his generation because he understood how to be part of their vision. The film proved that cinema was its own language, distinct from theater or literature. It communicated through images, through rhythm, through the juxtaposition of shots. Acting for film meant understanding that language. Brando spent his career mastering it. He became the greatest film actor of his generation because he understood what Eisenstein taught in Battleship Potemkin. Performance on screen isn't about grand gestures or theatrical projection. It's about offering moments of truth that can be shaped, through the magic of editing, into something larger than any single performance could achieve. Brando didn't invent modern acting alone. He studied the masters who came before him, absorbing lessons from silent comedians, French realists, German expressionists, and Soviet montage artists. These 10 films gave him the foundation he needed to revolutionize performance. Without them, there is no method, no mumbling, no Brando.